Good morning. This is Wisdom Wednesday number 6, and today's topic is from doubt or self-doubt to trust. So the questioner asks this question: I seem to be under the belief that self-doubt is a virtue, insofar as it prevents me from coming under the influence of prideful delusions. For example, my belief is that if I become thoroughly convinced that I am whole and complete, I'll be rendered incapable of detecting personal deficits which cause harm or confusion in others. To be totally convinced that I am a good person thereby qualifies me as a bad person, such that I cannot allow myself to believe that I am perfect, whole, and complete as I am. I must be imperfect and incomplete, because otherwise I would fail to engage in necessary and healthy introspection. In my experience, the more a person is convinced that they are pure and good, the more ugly and harmful their behavior tends to be, because they are so absorbed in celebrating themselves that they are not paying attention to their actions and their impact on others. They become smug, self-satisfied, and arrogant, and they don't detect it. Because of this experience, I've come to believe that being convinced of one's basic goodness is identical to being ignorant of one's actual deficits, and that this is a barrier to the growth inherent to recognizing and overcoming these deficits. It's a good question. So he says, going on, continuing to this belief, or sorry, owing to this belief, I've embraced constant self-doubt as a painful necessity in guarding against deluded pride. The problem is, constant self-doubt is paralyzing. It prevents me from trusting in or enjoying my good qualities as they actually exist. And this in turn inhibits their outward expression. It's very limiting, even during times when I'm at my most free and open. And as such, it is its own barrier to growth. I'm always checking and double-checking myself for defects, such that I live under the tyranny of latent anxiety and doubt. Over the years, I've come to accept, perhaps incorrectly, that this latent anxiety and doubt is a natural burden carried by good-natured and well-meaning people. It's a kind of cross to bear. Is this untrue? And if so, how? Excellent question. I so relate to this question. Yeah, I totally identify with this question. So let's get to the question again. So I'm going to zero it down a little bit. So your question is, how do I embrace being complete and whole as the truth of myself, but still have a vigilant eye on humility so that you can relax the paralyzing effect that this doubt has had on you? And as a human being, I recognize that you know that you can hurt other people and you can confuse other people if you do not watch for these defects and prevent them from acting out. And so the question goes on further: how can you be free from the cross of, or carrying the cross of, this self-doubt and this criticality, and instead perhaps maybe bathe in Divine's grace, maybe? Okay, really good question. Totally love it. So the first thing I need to say, there's a couple of things that need to be said about your long question, an important question, is perhaps consider this. Instead of making doubt a virtue, how about letting honesty be the virtue that you practice? Perhaps you're already practicing some kind of honesty, but it's with the heaviness of doubt. And honesty is not heavy, it's light. Okay, so if you practice daily authentic communications, this is a practice of honesty. So authentic communications means I'm in direct connection with myself. I'm asking myself very pertinent questions like, am I in alignment with my truth right now? Did I speak to so-and-so a little rudely? Is my ego running me? Is my ego image? Am I concerned about how I look rather than following my heart? Did I harm somebody? And if I did harm somebody, do I need to go there and apologize? Do they feel separate from me right now? Do I feel separate from them right now? Do I need to go over there just to heal myself and create a rapport, a connection with them? So by asking these honest questions and then deciding to act upon the authentic and doing authentic communications with others, then you're freed up. Your job is done. When you've done that, you don't need to carry the cross anymore. Drop the cross. You've done your work. Go and speak to that person. If you feel like there's a disconnection between you and them, then you just go and clear it up. There's no need to have this doubt thing going on in your head all the time, weighing you down when you do this daily practice. So you practice with yourself, you can write, you can speak aloud, talk to a person. What you do is you lay it all out. You let the other person see your process and see where you've been deluded. If you think you're deluded, then let them see where you're deluded. And then once they see you're deluded and you got yourself out and you've stayed at the place where you really want to be, then that's it. It's over with. You are now in alignment with your truth. And that will open you up to the realm of, I experience myself as whole and complete, because you've made a commitment to authentic communications. So don't let your doubt beat you up, because doubt will bring you down. But let honesty raise your vibration and allow you to experience that divine that's present for you all the time. So I hope that that's all you have to do is shift from this idea of doubt being a virtue and move it into honesty being the virtue, and it'll shift your energy for you. So there's another thing that I'd like to say here in your question. There seems to be a lot in there. Is this: you're concerned about harming other people because you yourself might be deluded. I just want to zero in on this one point, that people in general are good. The only time they act not good is when they're feeling pain. And when there's a lot of pain in a person, they can't handle the pain. So what they do, unconsciously, subconsciously, never intentionally, unless they feel the pain so much that they just think it's the other person's fault. So the pain is so intense that they need to push it out. And you might happen to be there to feel the infliction of their pain. And that's the problem, is people are not really bad. They're just full of pain. And they're just trying to get rid of it. And people, whoever's there, are, it may land on them. So what happens is someone's pain gets inflicted on someone else, and then that person who got it is now walking around with that pain. And you might be that person. So if you were traumatized by someone else, perhaps in a state of delusion, and delusion is also the result of pain. It's really the result of feeling separate from themselves, feeling separate from being whole and complete. This is really where all delusion, pain, suffering, all of that is just coming from that sense that I'm not whole and complete. So the first thing you will need to do is check. Am I carrying the pain that someone else inflicted on me? And if that's true, understand that that's the barrier between you experiencing yourself as whole and complete. You must free yourself of that pain first. So the pain needs to be released. Go to a therapist, do some emotional work, purge it out of your system. Don't go to the person who did it to you. You don't need to say anything there. You just need to clear this out of your system. And you might have to come to a place of trying to find some forgiveness or whatnot. And it's at that level where forgiveness is that you enter into that whole and complete and perfect state. But if you don't get rid of it, it will always push you down and hold you into the realm of human pain and suffering. So that's got to go. So there's two things so far. First of all, just practice authentic communications, and then you know that you are in alignment with your truth. And then once you are in alignment with your truth, do not beat yourself up any further. Drop the cross and move on and allow yourself to fully open up to your truth, complete and whole. And the second thing is, go ahead and clear whatever pain or suffering that you have in your own system, because that's blocking you from knowing that not only are you whole and complete, but all beings are whole and complete. And it's just due to the sense of separation from their whole and complete true self that's creating pain and then inflicting pain. And the last thing that I'd like to say is that when you offer yourself up to something higher than your ego, the reason why people have created a god, or have created a teacher, or have created the divine, is because we know as human beings that we are deluded. Somewhere we know that we're following a false sense, and we're acting out all the time trying to survive and get going in our lives. But there's so much pain and so much restriction and so much limitation with this thing called ego. So we created a god or gods or teachers or the divine so that we know that there's something higher, more powerful than this deluded, false ego ideal sense of ourselves. So we need to free ourselves by offering it up, releasing it up to the divine, something larger. And that's another really good practice. It's just somewhere knowing. It's kind of that religious thing that is still really important, is that thank God there's something bigger than me, because that big thing is going to take care of making sure that I'm in alignment with my truth. So it's an offering up, as opposed to whipping yourself and carrying the cross and down, down, down. It's really a lifting up. So you being in alignment with your authentic truth, your practicing of honesty, will lift you and allow you to experience in a deeper way, to the point where you realize that we are all one being, and I cannot harm another person because I'm actually harming myself. So, thank you. I hope you enjoyed today's Wisdom Wednesday, and from self-doubt to trust. Trust in your authentic, honest self. Bye for now. See you next Wednesday.